Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So let's start with our NASA's video for 6th of October. So yesterday we witnessed there was glacial lake outburst disaster in Sikkim. So in detail we have discussed about this, what steps needs to be taken. We can use the satellite data, the GIS system to monitor where the lakes are being formed, and accordingly then we can have proper plans for the management of the water. Supreme Court tells ED कि कोई evidence नहीं है against Sisodia except for a statement. The Supreme Court ने orally observe किया कि ED has to establish an unbroken chain of evidence which is linked with the former Delhi Deputy Chief Minister with the liquor lobby in the excise scam case. So you have to establish a chain. The money has to flow from the liquor lobby to the person. So that is why proper chain and evidence होना उसके ऊपर is very important. We know it is difficult to establish the chain as everything is done undercover, but that is where your competence lies. So court observed that except a statement made by the businessman, an accused turn approver, there was no proof against Mr. Sashodia. So he's been booked under the provisions of Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So that would be attracted only after the proceeds of a crime, in this case, that is bribery that was paid, and we finally get an evidence over this. So Nobel Prize for Literature goes to Norway's John Fosse. So his latest work includes the Septology. It runs to 1250 pages without a single full stop. So he plays basically whose plays that are among the most widely staged of any contemporary playwright in the world won the Nobel Prize in Literature. So the Swedish Academy said the writer was honored for his innovative plays and prose which give voice to the unsavored. So these are some of his works and contributions. So how we can tackle the traffic congestion in specifically when talk about Delhi NCR region. So herein, police is going to go high tech. Apart from this, जब हम बात करते हैं G20 summit के बाद we focused upon this thing कि what are the lessons for the police when it comes to management of traffic. So we came to the conclusion that having a proper traffic management plan that is important, and that even helped during G20 summit, and that is something which will be again implemented and taken forward as well. So apart from this, high technology definitely that can help, technology based solutions that will play a critical role in helping us manage the congestion and enforce regulations. So here we see the Delhi High Court says कि fresh air important है, but we can't ignore the socio-cultural activities at the same time. So air balancing these two is very important क्योंकि दोनों में कहीं ना कहीं fundamental rights are involved. So allowing Ramleela celebrations on a ground at Janakpuri, Delhi High Court ने बोला कि fresh air, healthy environment definitely बहुत important है हमारी lifeline के लिए for the survival. But जो significance है socio-cultural activities का वो भी हम ignore नहीं कर सकते हैं. सो हमारे लिए क्या इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, जो सोशो कल्चरल एक्टिविटीज हैं अब हम उनको कैसे प्रैक्टिस करें. सो दैट नीड्स टू बी नाउ डन इन अ सस्टेनेबल मैनर विच इज टेकिंग केयर ऑफ द हेल्थ ऑफ द एनवायरमेंट ऑल्सो, एंड वी आर मेकिंग श्योर कि वो एनवायरमेंट के ऊपर नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट ना करे. सो दैट इज द सस्टेनेबल वे फॉरवर्ड in order to again maintain healthy air quality and then go forward with the practice of socio cultural activities at the same time. So it's important that all these social cultural activities, celebrations, they are following proper orders and the guidelines that have been set. So Republic of China, that is Taiwan, they're celebrating the National Day celebration, which is 10th of October 2023. So herein when we talk about few specific areas, democratic solidarity. Throughout the year, the people of Taiwan, they enjoy freedom and human rights. And on National Day, they celebrate the founding of the nation and take pride in its vibrant democracy. And basically there's a holiday also. So it's definitely an island of diversity also. So when we talk about it as an island of diversity, so basically their warm hospitality, great food, gorgeous scenery, that's just the start of an adventure. There are definitely many outdoor activities which are available, spiced with the dynamic urban and traditional culture for a rich mosaic of enjoyment. So when we obviously we most often associate the island of Taiwan with the tensions growing up between China and USA, but these are other important areas also. And then again, it is also focusing upon sustainable innovation. So we can definitely learn some lessons from the practices which are being implemented, which are being used in Taiwan. So National Day celebrates the prosperity. They're using cutting edge technology and resources well under the 6 core strategic industries initiative in line with the UN SDG goals as well. So that's important. The 6 core strategic industries initiative, can it be implemented in India also? So commerce and trade, they're also thriving despite the pandemic, and their economic growth was around 2.45%. They're focusing upon the renewable energy, which is again a source of power generation volume, including water, wind, solar, and that continues to grow, and it is poised to reach 15.5% by 2025. So Karnataka, it is facing green drought. So what is this green drought? So the state, it urges the central team which is touring Karnataka to understand the impact of rainfall deficiency on agriculture rather than arriving at a conclusion looking at the standing crops. So state has estimated the loss to be around rupees 30,000 crores, and it is expecting a compensation of around 4,800 crores from the center as well. So this is one area. Now rainfall deficiency on agriculture को समझना ज़्यादा important है. And definitely we need to come up with a plan also, because आने वाले time में the drought like situation, they're going to increase specifically in central Indian states or in even West Indian states as well. So Karnataka, it has also flagged the discrepancy in the number of small and marginal farmers between the state and the center as well. So discrepancies have been flagged and identified. So these are some of the areas, and definitely जब हम finances की बात करते हो तो that is one of the problem areas for different states. So financial devolution. Now when we talk about the impact of the climate change that we are seeing, specifically अगर हम agriculture की बात करते हैं, तो should it be made or part of the terms of reference of the finance commission or not? Yeah, is it already a part of it? So that needs to be looked into. So national unity and three-dimensional view. So here we see what are the three then dimensions are directly talking about national unity. So Gandhiji, he recognized that caste-based discrimination, it is going to hinder the Hindu-Muslim unity, which in turn would obstruct national unity as well. So B.R. Ambedkar, he argued that emancipation of the depressed classes can be achieved only through their separation from the entrenched cultural universe, which is called Hinduism. So herein, firstly, we also need to know about what were the different ideas of Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar on different thoughts. So the biggest challenge in Gandhi's Hindu unity platform was proposed separate electorate for the depressed classes. So Gandhiji, he did not support separate electorates for the depressed classes, whereas Dr. B.R. Ambedkar wanted them. So Ambedkar and the colonial rulers, they were on the same side of this debate on the communal award in 1932. So this is one thing. Gandhiji, he was willing to die to enforce Hindu unity. So Pune Pact between the two leaders agreed on assuring representation for the depressed classes, but without a separate electorate. So this was about the Pune Pact. And again, it was signed between Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So as part of the larger Hindu whole, when we talk about this. So depressed classes, they would get more representation than they would have got under the proposal for the separate electorate. So this was the proposal under the Pune Pact. Reservation remains part of the state policy. Aaj ke time mein bhi we are having reservation, and this is envisaged largely as an instrument to mitigate the caste-based disadvantages within the Hindu society. So Dalits who convert to Christianity or Islam, they become ineligible for the reservation. These are some provisions. Hindu unity was non-negotiable for Gandhiji, but Hindu-Muslim unity, it was an equally important second pillar of national unity for him. So Gandhiji viewed Muslims as a distinct community, recognized definitely they need to also have autonomy, and sought out Muslim leaders in efforts to build Hindu-Muslim unity. So Gandhiji, he took several steps in order to ensure that we are able to build a strong Hindu-Muslim unity. He joined the forces when we talk about non-cooperation movement ke time pe, Khilafat movement, and it was driven by the transnational Muslim agenda, but united with Hindus in its anti-imperialist edge. So this was the first time when we saw during our national freedom struggle, Hindu-Muslim unity. So there are two things जब हम बात करते हैं which I am devoting my life: permanent unity between Hindus and Muslims, and the Satyagraha. So this is what Gandhiji highlighted. The two most important things that he said he is devoting his life for is Hindu-Muslim unity and Satyagraha. So his efforts at Hindu-Muslim unity, by accepting them as two distinct political communities, may have paradoxically helped the antagonistic communal politics that would emerge in parallel. So this acceptance of the cultural and religious autonomy of the minorities too found its way into the constitution. So definitely it formed a part of the constitution. Also, different provisions are there. Talk about the minorities, different Supreme Court judgments I have. So the third axis, or the link between the heartland and the periphery, took shape in response to the realities that the founders encountered during the making of the constitution. So during the national movement, when we see ki Hindi public sphere baat kare, so that emerged in the northern plains, that began to equate itself with the national, and the sentiments elsewhere, they were ignored. So Gandhiji himself, he was a promoter of Hindi as a national language, and it is up to my friends in UP to have a whole India. It is up to them to have a Hindi India. So these were again his these are the words of T.T. Krishnamachari, who was a member of the Constituent Assembly. For Hindi members, they insisted on enforcing Hindi across the country. So Article 370, it gave special status to Jammu and Kashmir. The sixth schedule, it gave autonomy to the tribal populations in the Northeast. So we are having fifth and sixth schedule. And 1976, considering the divergent population trends in South and North, interstate retribution, the Lok Sabha representation, that was again suspended for 25 years, and then again in 2002 for another 25 years. So this topic we took up in detail yesterday. We talked about delimitation, kaise it would be in a way leading to reduced number of Lok Sabha constituency in South Indian states, because they have been successful in controlling their population. So as a result, iska kya impact ho sakta hai? So when we talk about the growing number of non-communicable diseases, so when we talk about diseases related to your cardiovascular health, and then diabetes, we talk about hypertension. So these are some of the important areas or the diseases which are growing up in numbers, and specifically not just in the old age people, it is also growing amongst children and the younger people. So definitely it is also going to impact the quality of our demographic dividend as well. So what can we actually do in order to reduce these numbers and bring to its minimum level? So when we talk about food industry, when we talk about the ultra processed foods ke upar jo consumption increase हुआ, specifically when we talk about the lifestyle that is practiced in the urban areas, we basically see our reliance has basically we have become over reliant upon the food apps like Zomato and Swiggy. Take seconds to order the food you really want to have. So because of this, again, we are seeing the number of diabetic people, or the pre-diabetic people, or the people who are susceptible to this disease, that is increased. So only a legal framework or an ordinance with the objective of reducing or halting the consumption of these ultra-processed foods can safeguard people from the strategies of the food industry. So this is basically, we can say that herein we are having materialistic, or we can say capitalist world versus the human health. So we have already talked about one of the, again, innovative steps that we can come forward is that when we talk about this food ordering culture from these apps, we can have proper transparency about each and every food that is available for ordering, about their calorie intakes, how it is again going to impact your health. So that can be again one area where we can make consumers more aware about how basically they are spoiling their lives. Apart from this, and talk about a playground for the food industry. So how food industry is basically, again, now it comes into capitalist industry, the private sector, they are focused upon how they can increase their profits. So in that also, now we need to have a proper policy. We need to have proper standards. We need to have proper standards when it comes to even the disclosure of the information, the quality of, even when it comes to the oil that they're using. You need to make sure that they're not reusing it multiple number of times. And even how food industry can make a major shift towards healthier options when we are having different delicacies. In that also, they are having some healthier options. So it is important to promote that rather than promoting these packaged food items. So the result is, because of all these things, it is deepening public health crisis. And sugar sweetened beverages, they are a major source of added sugar in the diet. So these are some of the food that is available, the beverages which are available, which are again impacting our health. So this is definitely going to overall impact the quality of demographic dividend, which is going to impact our pace of economic growth also. So we are having different movements like Eat Right movement, which again making false promises. Food industry ने उसमें participate किया, but again mere participation for mere purposes of formality, it is not going to help us. We are having Fit movement India. So ये कुछ एरियाज हैं, बट अगेन स्पेसिफिकली जो हमारी फूड ईटिंग हैबिट्स है उनको शेप करना ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस आल्सो, सो द ओनली वे द गवर्नमेंट इट कैन सेफगार्ड द पीपल फ्रॉम द मैनिपुलेटिव स्ट्रेटजीज ऑफ द फूड इंडस्ट्रीज थ्रू अ लीगल फ्रेमवर्क, या एक ऑर्डिनेंस अंडर आर्टिकल 123 आप ऑर्डिनेंस इशू कर सकते हो, which with the objective of reducing or halting the consumption of ultra processed food. So overall जब हम production की भी बात करते हैं तो वहां पे भी we need to control this production, and it could also include defining healthy food, warning labels होना चाहिए food packets पे properly, and restrictions on the promotion and marketing tactics. तो even यहाँ पे जब हम बात करते हैं advertisements कैसे present की जाती है, so वहां पे भी again we need to make a change, because that again definitely impacts the behavior of the people or the food choices that they are making. So we can learn from the governments of South Africa, Norway, and Mexico. They have also recently taken similar actions, and government of India can also show the strength to regulate the food labeling and marketing practices. So such a law, it will make a clear demonstration of the will of the government as well. And जो infant milk substitutes have feeding bottles and infant food Act flattened the growth of the commercial baby food. So the proposed new law, it could do the same to unhealthy foods and beverages as well. And this is an idea whose time has come now. So Pravesh, do you want to add up something here? Some new
Like 1 or 2 points I want to add here is that along with these strategies, we should also focus on improving the agricultural products which our farmers are growing. We should reduce the chemicals intake which we do in our farms. That should be reduced by the farmers because in the name of fertilizers, a lot of chemicals adds on to the farm products, and that those are consumed by the common man, which leads to these diseases. Along with that, uh, not only the dietary focus should be there, a behavioral focus should also be there to reduce the pressure, because as per some medical reports, the diabetes is majorly happening because of the hypertension
Yes.
and a lot of anxiety. So that should also be reduced. Along with that, the environment, the a healthy environment should be created. More exercise culture should be promoted, and yeah, these 3 or 4 steps we can think of.
Yes. Yeah, I like this point of key. We need to focus upon the agriculture sector also. So that's a unique and different point. Okay, moving forward to other topics. So no country for old women, when we talk about the even what are the expected changes that we're expecting in our demography. So by 2050, we expect the old age population to increase to almost double to 20% of the total population. So here we're specifically talking about the old women, we're talking about the feminization of the old age. So as life expectancy rises, birth rates, they are declining. A nation begins to see a larger proportion of its population aging, and India will soon approach a critical juncture when the proportion of the elderly, it will peak, placing an overwhelming strain on the working age population also. So women who generally outlive men, they are at the center of this crisis. So as a high share of them, they are out of the labor force, they lack savings. So they are more prone to health issues also compared to men. So एक health burden है and then financial burden है, that which often finds the basic tasks more challenging during their sunset years. So they're also less aware about government schemes, basically क्या run की जा रही for their welfare. So जो government schemes है वहाँ पे we can definitely awareness generation के ऊपर we can work upon there. Now when we talk about the financial burden, as we yesterday we were talking about how we can initially we can work upon generating awareness about financial planning, so that can become a very important component during their old age. And health issues, maybe there are more to health issues, तो यहाँ पे एक तो government schemes जो run की जा रही है, they can take benefit from this. And again during basically whatever lifestyle they are following during their youth stage and then following years, that is also going to play an important role in terms of what health issues they would be having during their old age. So there are multiple issues, and hame again isko not just we don't have to see it from the perspective of only during the old age, puri lifetime ke bare mein we need to think about this. So the share of elderly population estimated to double to 20.8% by 2050. So this is also been mentioned already. Dependency rate is going to increase, disease prevalence, which is already increasing when we talk about even the non-communicable diseases. So this may be when we talk about diseases which are related to bad air quality. So ऐसे बहुत सारे multiple areas that we need to think about, and we need to again take action. So indirect चीजें भी उनको definitely impact कर रही हैं. So Heron Pravesh, you want to add up or ask any specific question?
Like if I ask you that on individual level,
Okay.
not on the institutional level, on individual level, how we can improve the situation?
Individual level पे the role of family becomes very important. So this is one of the major problems ki, the older people, the old age people, they're not acceptable to the family, they are seen as a burden. So herein the values, they are going to play an important role. So definitely वो उनकी mental health पे बहुत ज़्यादा impact करता है. So at an individual familial level, here we can work, and this is again one of the important components.
And I think the role of movies and web series today, which are coming on the various OTT platforms, they are actually playing an important role in this regard to generate the awareness. As because what actually is happening in India is that uh, there is a love for baby, but there is no love for parents today, which is witnessed. So the movies have a very potent role in this regard to improve the situation.
So IIT Bombay Dean says ki vegetarian table basic policy made by the student body calls these stir insensitive. So IIT Bombay mein it has been witnessed ki canteen mein they have segregated certain tables for vegetarian food. Basically जो students they want to have vegetarian food, तो उनके लिए different tables identify की गई. तो basically ये divide कर दिया गया between vegetarian non-vegetarian food, having students to grow louder on the campus. So यहाँ पे basically issue ये हो रहा है, again we need to respect this thing. यहाँ पे I don't think so कोई ऐसा major protest होना चाहिए. We need to respect each other's food habits, and if people they are not comfortable in sitting together with a person who's having non-veg food, so that is absolutely fine according to me. So they can have a This is again your decision at an individual level, whether you want to have it with that person or you want to sit separately and then enjoy your food. So
No,
provision.
even I subscribe to your wish and your decision that having a separate table to eat our food in distance with the non-vegetarian people, I don't think there is any problem in that, because um, the vegetarian people have um, the vegetarian people have a very basic principle that, number one, they have a perception that if they will consume the non-veg, so that is depleting the animals, right? Number one, because by cutting someone and eating someone, it is considered as bad for them, for the vegetarians. And
Mm.
number two, when the non-veg cuisine and these kind of things comes, so obviously the I will not say smell, but yes, the
You might not be comfortable in visually even seeing that.
even, yeah, definitely.
So it's, yeah. So people basically who are here, we are seeing the protest from the side who are basically more of non-veg. So again, imposition of fines and all of that has been taken up. So Bangladesh gets its first batch of uranium. So Bangladesh, they've received the first uranium delivery from its Russian-backed nuclear plant project, which is aimed at bolstering its overstretched energy grid by but complicated by the sanctions on Moscow. So herein, Bangladesh is also exploring the options of renewable energy or basically generation of nuclear energy. So they are here and tying up with Russia. So even in India, we are having like Kudankulam nuclear power plant, which is in collaboration with Russia. So firstly, we need to be clear with where all we are having the nuclear power plants, and again with which all countries we are having them. So Bangladesh is our long-term friend and partner. This has been highlighted with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. So he's pledged assistance for the uranium supply, maintenance, and management of the spent fuel. So nuclear energy, definitely, it can also play an important role in energy security, in even renewable energy. Apart from this, uh, what else can we say? What can be other benefits of nuclear energy?
Obviously, the 2 points you have raised, that in the energy security, renewable energy, as well as the defense sector, a theory of deterrence is based on the nuclear power itself. And even in the bilateral relations with different countries, the nuclear plays an important role. Along with that, I would like to ask one thing, that the uranium, which you just mentioned, that we also are having the plants in Kudankulam, which is in Kerala.
Yes.
Can India export its uranium to Bangladesh or not?
India, how can India export? India itself importing uranium. We are having
Okay, so
high reserves
basically,
of thorium, or we can say monazite sands in Kerala. But when it comes to uranium, so we are import dependent upon uranium. So we can't export it to Bangladesh.
okay, so
In India also, we are trying to shift towards how thorium can be, used as a nuclear power plant fuel. So again, our dependence upon the imports gets reduced.
okay,
So in the services sector, the purchasing managers index in the month of September sees a boost. So new orders, they rise at the second fastest rate. So in manufacturing PMI, we saw कि वहाँ पे हमें थोड़ा decline देखने को मिल रहा है. So these are again indicators, short-term indicators जो हमें बताते रहते हैं how the economy is performing, whether it is in services or manufacturing. So cost pressure eases, that is one favorable factor, helping lift the sentiment of the year ahead business outlook to a 9-year high and spurring new hirings also. So we are seeing buy and services sector and growth in that. And there are certain factors which are supporting their growth. So in the month of September also, again, food inflation की जब हम बात करते तो it might have eased on the basis of two factors, cheaper tomato prices and even the LPG prices. So food inflation एक again बहुत volatile component रहता है, seasonal factors की वजह से हमें बहुत ज़्यादा fluctuations देखने को मिलती है, volatility देखने को मिलती है. So this is again something which
लेकिन अगर हम बात करें सीजनल फ्लक्चुएशंस की, तो अकॉर्डिंग टू मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फूड, there are no fluctuations as far as the food uh, production is concerned in the last couple of years, but still we are seeing the food inflation. So I would like to ask you one thing, that what are the other common factors and repeated factors playing a role in the food inflation in India?
रिपीटेड फैक्टर सी आपने बोला कि सीजनल इन्फ्लेशन में आई मीन टू से कि सपोज प्रीवियस ईयर की हम बात करते हैं
Fluctuation as you just mentioned. Yeah.
सीजनल इन्फ्लेशन में बता रही हूँ हाउ इन व्हाट कंटेक्स्ट आई वाज सेइंग सीजन इन्फ्लेशन की वजह से या सीजनल फैक्टर्स की वजह से वी सी द इन्फ्लेशन फूड इन्फ्लेशन. सो सपोज यहाँ पे ना एक साइकिल रन करती है स्पेसिफिकली एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर की बात जब हम करते हैं तो प्राइसेस प्रीवियस ईयर में प्रिवेल करते हैं, वो फार्मर्स के बिहेवियर को इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ टेकिंग अ डिसीजन वेदर दे विल बी गोइंग विद द कल्टिवेशन ऑफ विच पर्टिकुलर क्रॉप. तो अगर प्रीवियस ईयर में प्राइसेस वर सपोज लो तो फार्मर वुड नॉट बी गोइंग विद द कल्टिवेशन ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर क्रॉप, एंड आने वाले टाइम में डेफिनेटली सप्लाई कम होगा तो प्राइसेस वुड बी गोइंग अप. तो एक ये साइकिल है जो एक्ट करती है एंड दिस कीप्स ऑन फंक्शनिंग इन द एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर. और सपोज उस टाइम पीरियड पे प्राइसेस हाई थे तो फार्मर्स वुड बी गोइंग विद द कल्टीवेशन ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर क्रॉप क्योंकि प्राइसेस हाई हैं. बट उसकी वजह से अगर ज्यादा फार्मर्स उसी क्रॉप को कल्टीवेट करेंगे तो सप्लाई ज्यादा हो जाएगा मार्केट में आफ्टर द हार्वेस्ट एंड दैट वुड ब्रिंग डाउन द प्राइसेस. सो इस तरीके से these are few things. एंड अगेन टॉप क्रॉप्स की जो हम बात करते हैं टमाटो, ऑनियन एंड पोटैटो, तो वहां पे हमें ज्यादा फ्लक्चुएशंस देखने को मिलती है. सो यहाँ पे अगेन थोड़ा बहुत आई वुड से कि डिस्क्रिपेंसी एग्जिस्ट करती है जब फार्मिंग डिसीजंस की बात करते हैं, फार्मर्स के जो डिसीजंस की हम बात करते हैं, देन जो इवन बफर स्टॉक है वो भी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले कर सकते हैं. तो यहाँ पे अगेन वी नीड टू नाउ लुक इनटू कि बफर क्वांटिटी में क्या कुछ चेंजेस करने की जरूरत है विद दी more expectations of even droughts or flooding like situations to happen in future.
Okay, so as you mentioned about the buffer stock also, so Nagpur is considered as the onion capital of India in the state of Maharashtra. But timely we see that farmers comes on the road with a lot of trucks and they dump the trucks of onions on the road.
Yes.
And they demand the state government as well as the central government to provide the fair prices. How we can curb this problem? How we can improve their condition?
Their condition can be improved. We are having the GEM portal, the government e-marketplace, or when we talk about the national agriculture market also. So herein we need to now ensure कि जिन states में वो surplus produce कर रहे हैं and domestically definitely उनके लिए lower prices offer होंगे तो farmers के favor में नहीं है, that might lead to losses to the farmers. So now we need to ensure कि farmers कैसे pan India network से connected हो सकते हैं, and national agriculture market की जब हम बात करते हैं तो we are seeing improvements over there, but still इतनी सिग्निफिकेंट या इतने ब्रॉडर लेवल पे इंप्रूवमेंट्स नहीं देखने को मिल रही है. तो ऐसी स्टेट्स में जहां सरप्लस जनरेट हो रहा है वी कैन बेसिकली सप्लाई दैट सरप्लस टू अदर स्टेट्स जहां पे डेफिसिट है, जहां पे प्राइसेस हाई हैं, एंड वहां पे अगेन इफ फार्मर्स वुड बी सप्लाइंग टू दोज एरियाज तो दे वुड बी आल्सो गेटिंग फेयरली रेम्यूनरेटिव प्राइसेस फॉर देयर क्रॉप. So
I think
level पे we can work here in coordination, and again जो federal element आ जाता है between state and state cooperation, that can play an important role.
Okay, so I would like to add one more thing, that these agriculture mandis in the form of national agriculture mandis, and as you mentioned, that buffer problem. So obviously the center and the state should have a proper policy to provide relief to the farmers. Along with that, we import also a lot of onion because of the cartelization and hoarding which is done by the private trading corporations, especially in the states. So Essential Commodity Act should be effectively implemented to curb these kind of social ills, especially in the agriculture sector, to provide relief to the farmers as well as to the consumers. Along with that, when we are importing a lot of onion stock from Bangladesh and Pakistan like countries, so we should try to stop that, and if not stop, but we should try to minimize that to provide relief first to our domestic farmers. And as far as the mandis are concerned, in these mandis we should try to improve some digitization and technological advancement so that the various kind of loopholes which we have, that should be minimized.
Yes. So yes, we can leverage the technology also in the agriculture sector. Then SAT dismisses SEBI's order against Roy's in insider trading case. So basically यहाँ पे हमें we need to be clear with the idea of insider trading होता क्या है. तो when we see कि employees of a company, which is again a listed company in the stock market, if they are having access to a price sensitive information which is not publicly available, and if that information is misused for their own advantage, so that is called insider trading. So herein SEBI has come up with proper periodic disclosure norms, so that needs to be adhered to, and definitely takes actions against where we are finding insider trading cases. That's a simple idea. We can move to another
So
newspaper. Okay.
which you know, apart from SEBI, do we have any organization who is having control on insider trading?
Not really. I don't think so. Any other specific body apart from SEBI, because SEBI is a regulatory body for capital markets in India.
Okay, so the insider trading problem which is happening in various companies, as
Yes.
it is founded in the NDTV case also.
Mm.
Can you please tell me that the execution by our SEBI is happening effectively or not, or what we should improve if it is not
It
happening?
is very difficult. Firstly, it is very difficult to identify कि insider trading हो रही है कि नहीं हो रही है, क्योंकि वो price sensitive information जो है वो private है, वो सिर्फ कुछ ही लोगों के पास available है. So when we look into the finances and the accounting कि उस पर्सन ने कितना प्रॉफिट अर्न किया, एंड वहां पे अगर हम टाइम पीरियड देखते हैं, सपोज कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन वो कुछ टाइम के बाद पब्लिक की जाती है, बट अगर उससे पहले दे आर मेकिंग नो ह्यूज प्रॉफिट्स, सो कहीं ना कहीं देन वी आर एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई कि इट माइट बी अ केस ऑफ इनसाइडर ट्रेडिंग. सो एक प्रॉपर कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट, जैसे यहाँ पे मेंशन है कि वी आर हैविंग अ प्रॉपर कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट and the provisions of insider trading rules are there. So if they are violated, then again actions are taken.
Okay.
Okay, so in the Mint newspaper, we are seeing again regarding inflation and जो MPC Monetary Policy Committee के decisions रहे हैं, so accordingly inflation कितने हद तक वो tackle control कर पाए हैं. So how the prices they have moved since the last Monetary Policy Committee's meeting. So herein we are basically talking about the linkage between the MPC's decisions and their impact upon the food inflation specifically. So herein when we talk about, firstly we are seeing कि जो Brent crude oil prices right now they are on a higher end. So this is the again trend from 1st of August till 3rd of October 2023. So they have been moving up closer towards $100 a barrel mark. Then India made 10-year benchmark bond yield even there at a higher level, and then changes in the food inflation September versus July. So pulses, potato, wheat. So cereal inflation एक problem है हमारे लिए. So we see कि RBI की जो Monetary Policy Committee meeting it is set to deliver its decision on the policy rate today. They are having another MPC meeting. So with the market expecting a status quo, despite the surge in the prices amid a hardening of the bond yields, so a pause, nevertheless, it would be a challenge. So let's delve into this topic. So status quo. Why is the status quo most likely? हम क्यों expect कर रहे हैं कि the MPC would be going with the status quo as far as the repo rate change is concerned? So repo rate right now it is at 6.5%, and this is for the fourth consecutive time repo rate को change नहीं किया गया है, and this is at times when we are seeing core inflation which excludes food inflation, fuel inflation, light groups. It has been below the central bank's upper tolerance limit of 6%. So core inflation की जब हम बात करते हैं तो it has been below this upper tolerance level of 6% for 6 months period. So it might be the reason कि जिसकी वजह से we are not changing or we are not increasing the repo rate. So this offers some respite from the high food prices as well. MPC, it was hawkish at the August meeting, saying कि it would maintain a close vigil how inflation scenario is evolving. So while inflation is surprised on the upside, mainly because of again vegetable prices, food inflation we are seeing, but softening of the core inflation at the same time and steady economic activity may not warrant any action right now. So ये main reason है, because food inflation थोड़ा volatile भी रहता है, and if we are seeing कि core inflation is within the target zone, so if we, that is why we are expecting कि repo rate increase नहीं किया जाएगा, and economic activity के जो numbers भी है, it is pointing towards a steady growth. So inflation हमें increase होती हुई दिखाई दे रही है. Apart from the जो final decision रहेगा, जो observations रहेंगी MPC की, that are going to be much more important for us. So this is one area now coming to quote of the day. So IPOs, they have come back now. We are starting to see institutional shares sales as well. And given the interest in India as a market, at some point, people, they will look at both the organic and inorganic ways to come into the market. So these definitely, जब हम बात करते हैं इंडिया में specifically stock market growth and expansion की या capital market growth and expansion की, so we are seeing again यहाँ पे भी significant changes specifically because the way Indian economy is growing and it is performing, the resilience and the robust nature specifically during the challenging time. So that is one of the main reasons we are again seeing foreign attraction, and we are seeing now more number of even IPOs coming up. So that is also pointing towards the economic growth of different companies that we are having. Now coming to Financial Express newspaper. So let's see the important topics over here. So bond index inclusion to spur $23 billion of inflows into India. So this was latest news few days back. We saw कि India के जो emerging market bond index में inclusion किया जाएगा by the JP Morgan, that is going to attract $23 billion of foreign investment or foreign funds into India. So this is again going to play an important role in our economic growth. So this kind of impact that inclusion to the JP Morgan bond index means so this is going to be one expected benefits that we're seeing, and iske saath hi saath we're also expecting ki government ki borrowing cost hai, that would also come down. So that is also again going to help us when we talk about the fiscal prudence and achieving a fiscal deficit target also. So these are few benefits which are expected out of it, and definitely these are favor of India. So infrastructure firms, we are specifically seeing ki skilled labor shortage that worsens. So from 138 million in 2020 to scarcity has hit 150 million now. So infrastructure firms ke liye definitely now we need to look for what kind of skills are they demanding, and then definitely direct solution is imparting those skills to the labor force here, and we can have different government schemes for that. And even then when we say ki labor would be aware ki what skills are in demand, and accordingly they are reskilling themselves on periodic basis, so that can definitely help in addressing the shortage. Apart from this, we are seeing key shortages across business segments. The lack of skilled hands continued even after the pandemic, so time when the laborers migrated back to their villages. So we want construction workers, we can't find enough of them. So Pravesh, like we were talking about this topic one day, we were talking about circular migration. So therein I was talking key even migration from rural to urban areas is very important when we talk about the growth. So that is the same thing which is being highlighted कि construction workers की shortage हो रही है. So even migration from rural to urban areas plays an important role. But वहाँ पे role आ जाता है कि how we are managing the migrant population. We need to understand कौन सी states से they are out migrating and कौन सी states में ज़्यादा जा रहे हैं. So there's a huge shortage over there. So we want plantation workers also, and they are not available. So can't understand the solution. So these are the words of again the chairman of RPG group. So again, this problem is intensifying, which would be
So how
impacting.
we can think of solution?
We can see major solution is how we can ensure the availability of such labor in the areas where there is demand for them. So herein
Actually, I think one of the reason because of which the people are not able to find the huge truck of huge truck of workers. The reason being of giving limited social security to them, because of which they actually leave their places and they go back to their native places. This is one of the reasons, because of lack of social security.
These
There is no
secondary reasons,
formalization.
I would say. I would agree with your reasons, these are right, but I would say कि secondary reasons आप directly कैसे ensure कर सकते हो कि migrants they out migrate to these areas जहाँ पे jobs है, उनको पहले आप aware करोगे. ऐसी information needs to be made available to them कि कहाँ पे jobs available हैं, again उनके क्या economic benefits हो सकते हैं, because majorly लोगों का जो impact हुआ है after the pandemic and which has led to reverse migration is they are not now having so much of confidence or trust when it comes to having the livelihood options which are available in the urban areas. So that needs to be
That is what I'm saying.
हाँ, तो
Is the
उसमें
that is
this
what I'm
would be
saying.
one
If
of
the
the
social
components.
security programs will be provided to the workers, so they will be having a confidence generation in their mind, so that they can come back to the urban areas and they can have a proper livelihood.
Hmm.
That is what I'm saying.
Yes, that can be one of the important areas. So, okay, this can be now ensured. Social media पे we can talk about कि social media पे definitely people are active. अब जब आप rural areas की भी बात करते हो तो everyone is having a smartphone. They are using social media. So वहाँ से भी this information can be reached to those people through social media platforms. And definitely
And
this
you know, in
have
this,
a major
yeah, in this topic, there is one more thing, that actually what is happening these days is that there are associations which are getting built up of of workers. For an
Yes.
example, in the high-rise building society, what we are seeing, that earlier what used to happen, the um the poor families lady used to go for the daily chores to work in these high-rise buildings, but now the companies have come into place and they are registering these ladies, they are registering with their ID cards, Aadhaar cards, and everything, and they are saying they are providing a social security to them. So more formalization is coming these days into the markets, especially as far as these workers markets are concerned. So when the industrialists are not able to provide enough social security, so because of which they are not having enough, uh, they are having shortage of workers.
Yes. Okay, and apart from this, जब हम बात करते हैं skilled labor shortage की भी, तो that is more visible in the sunrise sectors like solar module manufacturing, and the number of skill certified workers, that is also less. So the demand is about 30,000 skill certified workers will be needed for the sector by this financial year's end. And while the supply would be only about 10,000 skilled personals. सो इंश्योरिंग कि ये स्किल्स गैप को कैसे हम ब्रिज करेंगे ये समझना और अगेन आइडेंटिफाई करना वुड बी इम्पोर्टेंट. तो इन वन वर्ड, training is the solution. Training is the bridge between the academic knowledge and performance on the field. So India में या जब आप बात करते हो और more specifically Indians, they need to change their mindset. We need to look down on the blue collar jobs. So this creates an imbalance in the job market as well.
And
So
this is the only concept where the Indians are going outside and they are performing these kinds of blue collar jobs and even more down jobs very
yes.
happily rather than doing in India. The reason, because they have social security provisions in those countries, but even neither the industrialists nor the government is are having for them in
Hmm.
India. So that is a major reason, because, and number one, today the India is getting more literate day by day. So obviously they have a tendency why to do job in these sectors rather than going the up sectors or go outside.
Yes.
So we have to work on multiple areas.
So yes, even these are some high skilled paying jobs. So again, यहाँ पे भी we need to now make aware कि ऐसी jobs भी available हैं. You can work within India also, and the 4 new labor codes that we are having, we need to ensure कि as soon as possible that gets implemented. So big boost to the state's coffers when we talk about the non-coal minerals. So integrated players, they will be benefiting from the reforms. So what are the reforms? Let's understand them. So merchant miners, they find tough competition and production is stagnant at the same time. So 8 years since the grant of mining leases for the non-coal and non-fuel minerals that was brought under mandatory auction regime, sector has seen a big shift away from the so-called merchant miners to a larger integrated players because of the change in the system. So another impact of this policy change, which was carried out with 2015 amendments to the Mines and the Minerals Development and Regulation Act of 1957, is a boost to the government coffers in the forms of revenues from the assorted levies. So even this has helped in revenue generation for the government. So a negative fallout kya raha iska? It is seen to be the job losses or the low growth in the new employment, as the merchant mining sector used to have a relatively high employment elasticity. So जो employment elasticity है, this is now moved more towards employment inelasticity. So overall जो production की बात करें, it has remained steady. Exports, excluding the precious stones, they have declined to the lowest in the 4 years, implying कि जो fresh investments है, they are yet to show the results on the ground. So these are some of the developments, and then we talk about the National Mineral Exploration Trust. वहाँ पे भी the contribution to this accrues to the central government. So under the act, new leases. So these are some again factual things. You can just go through them. Even CSR is also part. The revenue share percentage further increases when other statutory payments like the corporate tax, GST, 2% of CSR, cost of mining salaries, these are added up. So even इसको include करने के बाद we see कि revenue share further increases up. So this has been again one of the positive fallouts of this amendment. So fintech industry में we are seeing again growth, and this is again one of the potential sectors of growth in India, and which we're again focusing more upon. So here we see कि fintech funding records 68% surge in the period of July to September. And financial technology startups in the country, they saw an uptick in funding. So जो financial technology startups हैं, they can be brought into this network of generating awareness about the importance of financial planning. So they can definitely bring that behavioral change on common person's life in terms of financial planning, how they can use their and effectively plan their money that they're having, how savings it can be again put into such funds, or they can be invested, be it mutual funds or equities, and definitely they can reap the benefits during their old age. And this would be again reducing the burden on the public sector as well. So this would be again furthering the rationalization of the revenue expenditure at the same time. So that's all for part one. Next, we'll continue with the part two with another set of newspapers.